The TikTokification of metal music is a good thing. Time and time again, it seems to be that the most repeated sentiment regarding the platform TikTok is that it incubates this subculture of metalheads that don't truly enjoy the genre, or in my favorite case, it only pumps out posers. However, I want to get on my soapbox for a minute and talk to you about why I don't think TikTok is bad for the metal genre. If anything, I think it's a good thing. The culture surrounding metal music at its core is incredibly elitist. The formation of the genre stems from anti-authority, angst, and then the general need to be as edgy as possible as a way to distinguish yourself as unique. It's a personality crisis, thinly veiled with a collective understanding that the more niche your discography is, or your favorite bands, the more theoretical clout coins you can put in your little metalhead purse. This concept is also known as subcultural capital, and that term was coined by a sociologist named Sarah Thornton. Subcultural capital refers to the knowledge, style, and behaviors that grant you status within a subculture. And in this case, knowing niche bands, shitting on other bands, and listening to heavier genres than the person sitting next to you. Also known as, I know more niche music than you. Or, the band that you listen to is for posers, isn't heavy, and therefore, I get to hold myself in a higher regard of value within this subculture than you do. I almost feel like this kind of weaves into the concepts of the social identity theory, wherein people often manage their public personas to gain social approval or status. And in this case, the ability to manage one's public persona has been made easier than ever with the ability to use social media. Individuals can curate their own online identities completely separate to what they actually are in real life to be able to appear more aligned with what's popular or trending, and not only that, but to gain followers, likes, and what we deem now as social capital, engagement. With or without knowledge of all of the other baggage that comes along with it, when you are introduced to social media, you become quickly aware of the ever-present looming concept of trends. They cycle through, but we have this inherent feeling that we need to follow these trends, or at least consume some of the content within them. And sometimes people find things that they genuinely enjoy by consuming content circulating around trends. All of a sudden, these people are thrust into a super niched out small part of a ever-growing community, but they don't have any of the other baggage or knowledge that people who regularly consume the content within that culture expect them to have. It's the concept that metalheads expect other metalheads to know everything about a certain genre or everything about a certain band, or be able to name 5 songs if you dare listen to an album or say that you like an artist, because you have to earn the ability to say that you're a metalhead. And for the people that have made their way through the self-inflicted pain of being able to deem oneself worth enough to be able to wear the title of a metalhead, they almost have a kind of a complex about who is then also allowed to put that badge on. It's how we have gatekeepers. That's basically where they come from. It's how we have gatekeepers, it's how we have elitists, and it's how we have the general anonymous people engaging with people's content, then further complaining about anyone who doesn't meet their narrow expectation of what a metalhead should be, dubbing them a poser. When, unsurprisingly, in reality, this is a chronically online issue. I've never been to a physical festival or a concert where someone's presence at the show is questioned purely on the basis that they don't actually like the genre. It's only ever been online. And more often than not, it's tied to the more extreme genres within the metal culture, incredibly present within these online forums and platforms and communities where this ideology of elitism and gatekeeping and general toxicity flourishes, rather than more easier to enter genres such as metalcore. This concept of elitism is, once again, providing themselves with this self-imposed feeling of they earned this inherent value to be able to contribute to this community. They feel like they are special in a way that other people aren't because they are more interested in the niche concepts. It's a artificially imposed value for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to contribute it to their own personalities. So they manufacture it. This is also why, within these communities that are extremely prevalent with gatekeeping, elitism, and toxicity, you see other behaviors like racism, for example, which even now is incredibly present in extreme genres of metal music everywhere. Online, in communities, on social media platforms. It's everywhere. And it's not just racism. Misogyny thrives in these niche communities online where people are brought together. Typically, a lot of them range from the ages of 13 to like 25 white men that want to get together on a niche Discord or Slack community or engage with each other on Twitter, all surrounding the fact that they really like gore grind music. It's an odd example of the shadowy corners of a culture bleeding out and being very loud in online spaces regarding general cultural activities. I don't want to get too far into it because there is a lot of nuance to it, and a lot of it stems from a feeling of loneliness and having low self-value. And if history has taught us anything, hatred thrives on people with low self-worth. So let's move on. But for metal music as a genre to be able to sustain itself and to be able to exist in 20 years, new people need to enter the culture to consume that content, which leads to the next big section. Contrary to popular belief, metal, just like any other music industry, is a legitimate industry that has business activities. It needs to make money. This also leads me to almost a solution of what people typically say is the fault of TikTok. What people ultimately have a problem with that I personally think they don't realize is actually the root of what they hate about TikTok or short form content in general is that the methods that these bands and people are utilizing to then promote their brands online. And it's usually broken down into two things: thirst traps and rage bait. We're mainly going to be focusing on rage bait right now. You're stemming one of the most basic, core, and visceral emotions that humans can have: rage, hatred. And when you're on a social media platform where being anonymous and the things that you say online have very little to no actual repercussions in your day-to-day life, hatred thrives. Unlike traditional media or just basically the music industry for the last 30 years, rather than a band having to sign with a record label to be able to access promotional channels, be able to access radios, create physical media, to be able to create video advertising media or music videos to then promote their songs, TikTok kind of offers a level playing field for any band that wants to come out and start promoting themselves without the backing of a major or even minor record label. With strategic content creation, underground and independent bands have been able to access an untapped market where they're able to directly go onto a social media platform and reach out to the people who are most likely to consume their content: metalheads. And they're able to do this through hashtag targeting, keyword targeting, or just making content that has a hook that generally resonates with a primary audience that is most likely to consume their content. This leads to something unprecedented and not really ever seen before: the virality effects, giving small bands the ability to reach that exposure and success that was once only obtainable for bands that were able to secure a major record label signing. However, this may be when we get to a part where we start to understand where the issue truly starts to come from. Our culture has shifted in the sense that we no longer regard certain things to be considered successful. We put such a heavy emphasis on the ability to create content that is then viral that all of our content must meet that goal, and so we then employ strategic operations or create content in a way that will then meet these goals. But now that it's easier than ever for any band to get on social media, and everyone wants to blow up, and everyone wants to be a famous musician, there's an even heavier focus now on the ability to become viral. This newfound emphasis on the ability to create and pump out viral content day after day after day is incredibly new. There used to be a slow progression of bands building a dedicated fan base to be able to go on tour, sell their CDs, their physical media, and their merch to then create a community and build enough awareness around them that they would then at some point be spotted by an artist relations representative of a record label and then get signed. And then that's when the real promotions would begin. In this rather long process of grinding out and creating a community, while it still exists, it exists in a different sense. Rather than an industry that was reliant upon networking and signing a contract, now we're replacing it with short-form video content with the perfect rage bait hook to be able to get engagement, comments, and likes, to then hopefully add to your Spotify listeners. Rather than relying on something like networking and the possible ability to be signed to a record label, we're now ignoring that and then switching over to this concept that you have to pump out constant short-form video content with the perfect rage bait hook so that you can solicit more comments and engagement and likes so that you can build some kind of online repertoire of a community that hates you. Because that's the easiest way to get engagement online. The collaborative nature of social media has made it easier than ever for artists to be able to create a community where they can directly engage with the people consuming their content. However, because it is now easy and notably free for a band to be able to make a TikTok account and then post however much they want a day, we've seen an incredible flood of just incredibly low quality content where a band really isn't even trying, or they are trying, they're just not hitting the mark in comparison to other people, because how are you supposed to compete when you're working against people that are using kind of shady marketing tactics and preying upon people's most volatile emotions? Which leads to this, sure, you got 1 million views on a video and maybe 50,000 likes, 20,000 likes, but how many of those people genuinely want to listen to your music now? How many of those comments were people hating on your music? Sure, now you're well known within the community, but you're basically a lolcow. And while yes, it does lead to a lot of people being able to sign onto record labels, start touring, and start creating more music, I can't help but feel like this push for people to create content that easily goes viral and quickly reaches audiences in a way that encourages toxic behavior is damaging to the community. If I remember correctly, the average number of times it takes a person to see someone's or a business or a brand's content on the internet and then actually follow through, like throughout the customer process, has up to almost 16 times. Somebody has to see a video about your content or your business or your brand's mission 16 times before they actually want to engage or become a part of your community or do anything like meaningful with you. That's insane. I think it was 8, like 5 years ago. It's kind of like the concept that social media has brain rotted us. We have shorter attention spans, we have to have an immediate hook that tells us why we want to watch this, and we're constantly being sold to day in and day out through ads, whether or not we actually know they are ads. We live in a consumerist society that values the ability to quickly get clicks and sales and getting that serotonin hit of engagement. I know when I log into my TikTok, I get a serotonin hit whenever it's 99 plus notifications, and sometimes I log onto my account and there's 17 notifications, and I'm actually disappointed. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting more engagement? What do I need to do to publish something that has a better hook so that more people engage with my content and then go through my funnel to then join the community or engage with my content more? But it's not just TikTok. It's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's YouTube, and TikTok, and all of the other whatever minuscule tiny little social media platforms there are in the world. Most customers or social media users need to be hooked, explained to, and sold to within 7 seconds, and then they just scroll past. If you don't hit that threshold, you've missed the mark. And your content is arguably useless on a sea of videos that do hit the mark. But who am I to blame the person that's actually putting through marketing strategy in a way that works, that promotes their band, and then further promotes their own livelihood? It promotes independent music, and it promotes people wanting to go out and make a name for themselves in a way that's never been able to be seen before. And this concept of quick promotion and rage baiting is not native only to metal music. It's rampant everywhere on social media. This all ends up with one main point. Bands are a business. Sure, some people purely do it for pleasure and as a hobby, but established bands still have goals to meet. They have metrics they need to meet, they have tickets they need to sell. It's insurmountable pressure that's never been seen before because there is that lower barrier to entry. There is no longer the gatekeepers of the record labels and the promoters keeping the majority of people with these aspirations inaccessible to the stage, or to the consumer, basically. The stage that then presents their music to the general consumer, which is you and me. When you have bands that are actually serious about promoting their business, which is their music, to the whole consumer market that is accessible through a platform like TikTok, they're going to use the most effective ways possible, which just so happens to kind of be toxic. And they just keep replicating these efforts until they don't work anymore, or they can't. This is more an issue of short-form content than it is anything else. I mean, metal in particular has seen people doing outrageous things for popularity time and time again. A very classic example of this is Marilyn Manson burning the American flag. This isn't new. People creating content that makes other people angry, it's just that mass media now no longer has as much of an effect as social media. And we've seen that. The loss of television, the loss of radio, or at least the loss of impact on those platforms, then being replaced with this incredible conglomerate of social media networks, things do shift. It's why clickbait exists, it's why hooks exist. All of these things revolve around psychology of getting us to react in a way that engages with their content, comment something angry or nice or whatever about it. I use these methods. I try not to use things that are rage baity, but at the heart of it, you have a hook that then has a call to action that then encourages somebody to do something. Commenting, liking the post, sharing it. It's the basis of social media, and it all feeds the algorithm. It's seen now with newer bands, and a great example of this is TX2. A lot of people love to hate on them, but that's because they manufactured their own hatred online. It is the most successful way to make yourself popular. Manufacture your own hatred. Being cringe is not a new concept. I personally wasn't around during the MySpace days, but I'll take the word of the elder emos and the older people in the metal community that were around for some of the original social media platforms. People lolcowing on the internet or advertising their bands online isn't new. It's been happening as long as there's been a platform for people to talk about their music on. From what I can understand, bands like Asking Alexandria and Black Veil Brides are all bands that got pretty established on the internet through using these social media platforms, or platform, MySpace. The emphasis of this is that being cringe online isn't new, and lolcows will always exist as long as they're able to derive engagement from their cringy activities. The sad dog commercial that you see every once in a while if you ever go to your grandparents' house and you watch TV, asking for you to call the phone number and give them your credit card information so that they can donate to dog rescue shelters in need, that all plays on your emotions. This isn't new. This is just taking it, compiling it down into our Gen Z brain-rotted presentations of social media formatting, getting it within the 3 seconds for the hook, 7 seconds for the whole video, and sending it off into the universe. The basis of what we're able to bait these emotions or this engagement off of hasn't changed, and it's why sex sells. It's more and more common now to find someone wanting to be an influencing presence within a niche space or culture online and needing to quickly or wanting to quickly build a presence and community. And they either do that through making thirst traps or making rage bait. It's the two easiest ways to get a lot of engagement really quickly. I almost hesitate to discuss the concept of thirst traps because it can easily present itself in a way of shaming other women or coming off as putting other women down. I don't mean for this to be presented in a way that is shaming, it's marketing, and it's an effective tactic. The nature of constantly pumping out short-form content, wearing short shorts, and doing girly pop dances to Korn without ever opening an actual discussion or adding value to the community is in itself damaging to the very community you want to be a part of. It feeds this horrible stereotype that we've been fighting against since the conception of the genre, that women only engage in metal music to be able to get the attention of men, not because we actually like the music. It just feeds the stereotype that the only reason we are here is for male validation. Women want to engage with women, especially in the concept of content creators in a niche community that doesn't have many women in it, or at least visible. Poser Club as a platform is incredibly unique compared to the industry standard of metal music content creators. Around 80% of my following base on TikTok is women. When I did work for large outlets, I'm talking multi-million follower platforms, the average amount of female followers to those accounts was 15%. And I have 15,000 followers, so obviously it's not a big comparison to 1.3 million, but it's still insane. Having 80% of my followers on TikTok being women, when in comparison the industry average is to have less than 15, is insane. The ability for me to create a platform like that on the social media platform TikTok is what makes it so good for the metal music scene. You're not going to find many women on a Reddit thread. You're not going to find many women in the comments section arguing about what Corey Taylor thinks on a Loudwire article comment section on Instagram. But when you only want the immediate satisfaction of gaining social media clout, you have two options. You can make thirst traps and you can make rage bait content, and they're often chosen rather than going the route of creating slow built community content. And because it works so well, it's become the go-to process for any band or anybody wanting to become an influencer within the music space. And since they build such a large platform, they then become the representatives of the genre. They're the loud minority. They're the people that were able to amass 50,000 followers, 500,000 followers, purely off of the basis of people objectifying them. And to me, it seems like a degradation of the culture that we've all worked so hard to maintain. To be able to create a community for Poser Club and be able to directly meet a target market of women who enjoy metal music, I've never been able to obtain that ability on Instagram. Instagram Reels are one of the most vile places to make content I have ever experienced. And I experienced the 2017 to 2021 Discord metalhead extreme genre realm. Dark time. TikTok has allowed artists that haven't been popular for 20 plus years to suddenly go super viral. This may be a bad example, but one of my favorite examples has been Imogene Heap. Not a lot of people knew that Imogene Heap existed, or at least they knew some of her other names, but then all of a sudden the stars aligned when Headlock went viral on TikTok, and now I believe she was top charting not too long ago. The song Mary on a Cross for the band Ghost went viral because of fan edits. I'm not joking. People were making video game edits using a Ghost song, and it went super viral. And people started making thirst traps and doing all of their other content that they do on TikTok to it, but the ability for somebody to find a niche song that they really enjoy, make content with it, other people go, I really like that, and then adding it to their playlists, that is insane. That has never been seen before, and it is a net positive that I would argue almost compensates for the general shitheadedness of the marketing tactics that people need to utilize to be able to make it worthwhile to make content online. I have found so many amazing small bands that I never would have known about had I not been on TikTok. Some of it even ended up on my top songs for Apple Music for the year. Basically, what I'm trying to get at here is that low barrier to entry, while it may flood the genre with low quality created content, also allows people to access some hidden gems. And to a degree, us as the consumer help weed out what is bad and what is good. The algorithm, that is its entire purpose. A lot of people hate the TikTok algorithm, but one thing I have to say is that it works. If my target market engages correctly with a post that I put out, all of a sudden I'm reaching metalhead women all the way in South Africa. That's no joke. I had a video go viral for women that are metalheads in South Africa and Australia. I live in California. That is a very far span of like physical space for somebody to see something, engage with it, resonate with it, and follow me for. It's insane. It's never been seen before. It's the globalization of a culture that used to be niched down into physical subsects of being able to go to a concert, or listening to music at home, or going and shopping at a record store. And of course, it has its pros and cons. It's also placed a lot less emphasis on the importance of paid media or record labels in general. Sure, you can force something to go viral by putting a lot of ads on it, but depending on how many people comment "nice try, Diddy" in your comment section, it may or may not work. It all inherently goes back to the ability to create consumable content that hooks, pitches, and sells all within 7 seconds. But what I'm trying to say here is the ability to engage with other people within the subculture in such a global scale has never been seen before, especially with the ability to create and share content, exchange information, and provide value to each other. It's not just rage baiting videos, it's tutorials on how to DIY your battle jacket. It's here's what I put in my bag before I go to a metal festival. It's providing value to a community of, let's just say you've never been to a metal festival before, you can look up what should I bring to a metal festival, and you'll find all kinds of guides. It is a resource, and it is incredibly important in the name of keeping a community or a culture alive. That's all I have today. I hope you enjoyed my long little yap session, but it's been building inside me for a while. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more chick yapping about things that I find interesting within the metal scene, you should subscribe. Because obviously I need some metric to understand that the content I put out has value to then give to my self-worth. Bye!